Good, happy Tuesday morning, June 9th, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Tuesday morning, so let's begin. First up, New Hampshire House officials announced 37 new positive cases of COVID-19. 3 new hospitalizations. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Some work can't stop because our communities need you, which is why we're working to keep you working, to help you keep homes and properties maintained.
Here are those new numbers tonight. Total known cases are now up to 5,079 since the pandemic began. That's out of more than 87,000 people tested. About 1,400 are current cases, and about 10% of patients have needed hospitalization. 286 people have died. Close to 3,400 people have recovered.
And nationally, there are more than 1.9 million cases confirmed since COVID-19 arrived in the country. More than 110,000 Americans have died. That's about the population of Manchester. More than 500,000 Americans have recovered.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. COVID-19 in New Hampshire, what you need to know information. Let's take a look at that right now. And here is a look at that for all of you right now. There are 5,079 number of people in New Hampshire have tested positive for COVID-19. 2,026,493 number of people in the United States have tested positive. 286 number of deaths from COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 492 number of people who have been hospitalized with COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 113,55 number of deaths from COVID-19 in the United States. This map right here of New Hampshire shows you where current cases of COVID-19 are in New Hampshire. Manchester, 356. And this map of New Hampshire right here shows you where total cases of COVID-19 are in New Hampshire. Manchester, 1314. And now let's take a look at these 3 graphs here. Let's start with the first graph. New cases each day in New Hampshire in the purple. Daily new positive COVID-19 cases. In the orange, new hospitalizations, and in the red are the deaths. Now let's take a look at this chart here, current cases. In the purple, total current COVID-19 cases, and in the orange, current hospitalizations. Now let's take a look at this chart here, total cases. In the purple, total positive COVID-19 cases, in the orange, total hospitalizations, in the red, deaths, and the blue, recovered. Now let's take a look at this chart here. Each group of cases. Female and male of cases and risk information. Let's take a look at this chart here. Infections. Hospitalizations. And deaths. Let's take a look at this chart here. Deaths. Percent of New Hampshire population, race/ethnicity of cases, and hospitalizations. And again, your common symptoms: fever, lack of smell, cough, chills, and difficult breathing. How it spreads, and prevention tips. Be sure to stay with the Riley King Network for the latest of your COVID-19 information. Officials push ASAP COVID-19 testing program. Governor Sununu recently took tests. Governor showed no signs of illness. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Program. A knowledgeable and friendly loan counselor will...
Governor Chris Sununu got tested for COVID-19 over the weekend under the state's new ASAP testing program to try to detect asymptomatic cases of coronavirus. Sununu says he stopped by a local pharmacy and the process was quick and easy.
It literally took almost 2 minutes. They sent a little, the swab out to the car. I did it myself in the car. It took not even 2 minutes, put it back in. So easy, so simple, painless, done. Everyone should really go out and get a test. The data is important.
Public health officials say it's been eye-opening to see the comprehensive test results from long-term care facilities where they're finding far more asymptomatic cases than expected. They want to find out if that's also the case among the public.
As we went through in those initial weeks, around week 3 or 4, we started realizing that there were a lot of folks who just had no idea where they may have received the COVID virus. And any chance that we get to segregate people out and, again, give them the comfort to know that they're not going to put loved ones or coworkers in danger, I think it's a good thing.
But if you do get tested and it comes back negative, the state epidemiologist says that doesn't mean you're in the clear.
We don't want a negative test to provide false reassurance. People can still be infected or become infected shortly after a negative test, and for that reason, it still remains important and recommended that people practice social distancing.
For those who are curious, this was the first time Governor Sununu had been tested for COVID-19. Again, he has no symptoms of illness and encourages other asymptomatic Granite Staters to get tested as well. Reporting live in Concord, Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Brockton police search for 8-year-old missing girl. Let's take a listen to that video from WCVB Boston.
Completely new smile. Call today about your dental implants. New England Dental Group. All your dental experts at one location.
And for that, police are still looking for 8-year-old Grace. We're going to put a picture up that Brockton police released overnight. She was last seen in the area of Ames and Montella Street. We're about a mile from downtown Brockton. She disappeared around 8 o'clock last night, apparently walking out of a building in this area. She has not been seen since. Grace is about 5 feet tall, about 120 pounds. She was last seen wearing black shorts and a red Bridgewater shirt. She's also wearing a Winnie the Pooh headband. Overnight, police searched in a few locations right here on Ames Street and a nearby U-Haul location. Apparently, they did not find anything. They're also using social media to help in this search, and they're asking you if you have any information about Grace to call Brockton Police. Reporting live in downtown Brockton, I'm Ted Wayman, WCVB News Center.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Mills administration unveils alternative to 14-day quarantine requirement for out-of-state visitors. Let's take a listen to that video from WNTW News 8 Maine.
giving the class of 2020 recognition they deserve. Channel 8 Senior Shoutouts. Give your senior a shout-out and include their name, school, accomplishments they've made, plans for the future, and your well wishes. Go to WMDW.com and share your senior shout-out. Senior Shout-Outs brought to you by Hannaford.
A negative COVID-19 test will allow tourists to come to Maine on July 1st and skip the 14-day quarantine. It's part of Governor Mills' Keep Maine Healthy plan.
There's just no season at all so far.
Scott DeFelice, the manager at the Elmwood Resort Hotel in Wells, says he thinks guests may have a hard time getting tested in other states.
When they can, they're fairly expensive. They're up around $200 when you can find them. So that's a lot to ask of a family to incur that expense before they go on vacation.
Lodging will need to have guests sign a certificate of compliance at check-in that they either got a negative COVID-19 test result or that they plan to quarantine for 14 days. Visitors may be asked to show proof of their test.
I don't want to be handling anybody's medical information, certainly, but invariably somebody's going to send it to me, which I really don't want any part of that.
In terms of enforcing the certificates and responses from guests, it falls under the governor's emergency order.
So it would be enforceable ultimately by potentially a criminal penalty.
If they can't find the test and they want to come here, unfortunately it's going to put them in a position that they're going to lie to us, and I really don't want to see that happen. I really don't want to see anybody here sick.
Scott's silver lining, though, is that come June 12th, New Hampshire and Vermont residents may book rooms without a need for a test or quarantine based on the state's low virus count numbers.
Within a 20-minute span, I got 2 online reservations from New Hampshire, so I was very happy to see that.
And public health officials today did note that even after signing that certificate and having that negative test for COVID-19, that visitors here to the state of Maine will still need to follow all of the physical distancing policies, and if physical distancing isn't possible, to wear face coverings like masks. Live from Portland tonight, I'm Mary Kate Mannion for WMTW News 8.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Burlington city leaders hear from public on defunding police department. Burlington Board of Finance holds its first public forum. Let's take a listen to that video from NBC 5 News.
Windows, siding material, all products used in the construction of this, both design and build. I would always contact...
Following the Minneapolis City Council's decision to disband their police department, people in our region are looking for a similar plan of action with a new push to defund one of Vermont's biggest departments. NBC5's Zuri Hoffman is live in Burlington tonight with the latest call on the Queen City to cut funding. Zuri.
Yeah, Brian, well, tonight the Burlington Board of Finance held its first ever public forum. Lots of people weighing in on how money that would go to the Burlington Police Department could be redirected elsewhere.
Imagine, many years from now, explaining to your grandchildren what the police were and how you helped turn them into something better.
Burlington City Councilors trying to figure out next year's budget heard from 250 people during the Board of Finance's first ever public forum, many demanding the city cut back on funding to the city's police department, instead using the money to support people of color.
I cannot breathe until abusive officers, including Joseph Carew, Corey Campbell, and Jason Bellavance, are fired.
Calling for those 3 Burlington officers who were involved in incidents where use of force was in question to be fired.
Extreme use of force results in harm to individuals. It also harms our entire community.
City Councilor Brian Pine says right now the council can intervene because of contracts the city has with police officers through their union. But it's a conversation Pine wants to revisit before their contracts are up.
I believe, and I'm going to support requesting to reopen those discussions about that contract.
Perhaps over time we could actually thus need less police. I think that'd be an outcome I would welcome.
About 22% of the city's budget is spent on the police department. In the end, no action was taken at this meeting.
This is essential for us to do in this time. It is too late for us to be taking these actions. We must already have done these things, and so we must do them immediately. Thank you.
City Councilor Brian Pines said the city's budget is really in crisis mode right now because of COVID-19, so it might make it difficult to allocate funding elsewhere at this time. However, the council will have to make a decision by June 29th. For now, live here in Burlington, Zuri Hoffman, NBC5 News.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Some call for defunding BPD as council workers on budget this week. Let's take a listen to that video from WBAL TV 11 News, Kate Amara.
I'm Ken Coloma. It's my job to make sure all the packages that go out today get delivered.
Rally and protest has grown in size since we last spoke to you at 5 o'clock. It has been organized by the People's Power Assembly, and basically this group is calling for the city to stop funding the police and to, quote, fund the people instead.
Right now, black people are being oppressed.
As protests continue in Baltimore City, there's also a growing call to defund the police, with a new round of voices raised on Monday.
It's ridiculous that somebody has to die in order for us to really realize that Black Lives Matter, so I'm just tired.
The same day, the Baltimore City Council began virtual budget hearings for fiscal year 2021. On Friday, they will take up police funding, a proposed $509 million from city coffers, according to the budget book. Ahead of that hearing, hundreds of residents have submitted written testimony telling city leaders they want the police budget slashed. Some of the emails call for defunding the police and to divest interest in the BPD. Many of them also included an ask like this, quote, please change your budget to serve the community. And others asked to cut dollars from the BPD and spend that money instead on, quote, programs focused on community support and empowerment. We asked the chair of the city budget panel, is there an interest from committee members to do the same?
I've heard interest from some council members about that. I've heard interest from other council members in not making cuts to the police department.
The city council can only cut funding from the budget. It does not have the power to reallocate money. And Councilman Eric Costello also cautioned,
I think we need to be very careful when we talk about the funding of police department that is under a consent decree from the federal government, because we have a lot of things that we need to do to modernize this police department.
There are also people here calling to dismantle the police department, which the Baltimore City Council cannot do, as it is essentially operated by the state of Maryland. And there are some who are calling for the Baltimore police budget hearing to be postponed, the one that's scheduled for Friday. Councilman Costello says the panel has no plans to do so. This has already been postponed from May, and he said they're required under the city charter to have a budget signed by the mayor by June 26th at the latest. This protest lasts until 7 p.m. Live at City Hall tonight, I'm Kate Amara, WBAL TV 11 News.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. "12 residents, 4 staff members test positive for COVID-19 at Winston-Salem Assisted Living Facility." Let's take a listen to that video from WXII 12 News.
Web Heating and Air Conditioning is proud to present our new Energy Works division, offering home energy assessments, installation services, air sealing, and energy upgrades. Call today to learn how we can help make your home comfortable and energy efficient.
New tonight, we're learning of a growing COVID-19 outbreak at a nursing facility in Winston-Salem. The Oaks on Bethesda Road said in a statement that 12 residents and 4 staff members tested positive for the virus. All residents and staff have been tested now. The Oaks says it's taking every precaution to keep the virus from spreading.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. U.S. prosecutors move to force Prince Andrew to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Prince Andrew's attorney denied he has refused to cooperate. Let's take a listen to that video from WPBF 25 News, Florida.
Your home from pests. Contact Home Paramount Pest Control today and ask for a free inspection. Call 888-888-HOME or visit homeparamount.com.
U.S. prosecutors getting tough with Britain's Prince Andrew. A source close to the investigation confirming to WPBF 25 News that they're using a sort of international subpoena to force the prince to talk to them about his friend Jeffrey Epstein's relationships with underage girls. Prince Andrew had promised in November to help U.S. investigators as they continue to look into his longtime friend Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring. But prosecutors said bluntly in January and again in March, Andrew was not cooperating at all.
Prince Andrew has now completely shut the door on voluntary cooperation.
Now, sources confirm the Department of Justice has formally requested Andrew's testimony from the British Home Office using a mutual legal assistance treaty similar to a subpoena. Sources have told ABC News they are looking into alleged co-conspirators, focusing on Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein victim Virginia Giuffre claims Epstein and Maxwell forced her to have sex with Prince Andrew and other men. I spoke by phone in March to a former Epstein employee who says he saw Prince Andrew with Giuffre when he worked on Epstein's private island sometime between 1999 and 2005.
He was grabbing her butt and grinding against her. He was just acting like a lecher, frankly.
Prince Andrew has steadfastly denied any relationship with Giuffre and told the BBC he doesn't even remember meeting her.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
Now his lawyers have issued a statement denying he has refused to help the U.S. investigators, saying in part, any pursuit of an application for mutual legal assistance would be disappointing since the Duke of York is not a target of the DOJ investigation and has recently repeated his willingness to provide a witness statement. Late this afternoon, the Justice Department responding, saying Prince Andrew is not cooperating, that the prince has not given an interview to federal authorities, has repeatedly declined our request to schedule such an interview, and nearly 4 months ago informed us unequivocally through the very same counsel who issued today's release that he would not come in for such an interview. The Department of Justice saying if the prince is serious, their doors are open and they are awaiting word from when to expect him. Terry Parker, WPBF 25 News.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Sacramento Police Community discuss policing changes. Let's take a listen to that video from KCRA 3 News.
My name is Christine Payne. I'm an associate here at Amazon. Step into the blue line, sir. Yes.
Talking about moving money away from police towards the services and interventions that reduce the need for police in the first place.
Sacramento City Council member-elect Katie Valenzuela is hoping the City Council will vote to take $10 million earmarked for the police department
and invest it in other programs supporting communities' needs.
I want to start the conversation about what does safety mean in Sacramento and what role do police have in our communities so that we can fund them appropriately for that and direct funding towards other interventions for the things that they're not appropriate for.
SacPD currently has a $147 million budget. The council approved an additional $10 million for next year's budget, which goes into effect July 1st.
We respond to over 480 calls a day, every single day of the year.
Chief Daniel Hahn questioned, if the police department is defunded, who would the community call?
I don't know who would handle those calls if you eliminated a police department.
He says the SacPD is open to policy changes and reform, specifically when it comes to handling homelessness or mental health-related calls.
If they don't have violence or the prospect of violence, we shouldn't be going. We're not the best equipped to do that.
In a statement, Mayor Darrell Steinberg says he'd like to see 911 calls for mental health and homelessness handled by mental health professionals and social workers, saying in part, the first thing you do is redefine what you expect of police officers. Law enforcement should enforce the law when there are crimes, but they shouldn't be involved in every risky situation. Sac State criminal justice professor and retired Sacramento police officer Dr. Shelby Moffitt says funding and reform is a complex conversation that takes time.
You have to have conversation. You have to listen. And the key is getting those who are in the perceived power, in this case, it would be law enforcement, they have to listen.
Now, the Sacramento City Council meets tomorrow night. Council member-elect Katie Valenzuela is urging people to call in during the meeting to talk about changing funding for the police department. Reporting live downtown, Emily Maha, KCRA 3 News.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Stock features pull back a day after the S&P 500 returned to positive territory for the year. Features contracts tied to the major U.S. stock indexes fell early Tuesday, shortly after the S&P 500 index returned to positive territory for the year. Thousands pay tribute to George Floyd's hometown. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
I'm here in Houston, the stirring images of so many people coming here to honor George Floyd. One mother driving 7 hours from Oklahoma City with her children. People seen walking in the heat toward the church and arriving by the busload. Among those paying their respects, as we mentioned earlier, former Vice President Joe Biden, who met for more than an hour with Floyd's family. ABC's Marcus Moore with us right here at the church tonight.
2 weeks after his death at the hands of police, an emotional farewell for George Floyd in his hometown of Houston. Mourners lining up early this morning to pay their respects, braving extreme Texas heat, but so many telling us they needed to be here.
This man whose death has changed the world, he's changed the world. You have to come. You have to. I can't explain it.
Inside the church, social distancing. Just 15 people at a time in masks and gloves. For hours, thousands of people of all ages and backgrounds streaming past Floyd's open casket. Many here were strangers to Floyd and those next to them in this line. But today, people like Quinn Richardson and Don Murray are connected in their grief and hope for progress.
But when we see people like Mr. Don here, who said he had to be here too, it makes me proud to say something we're doing, making a lot of noise, we're showing up, and people like him are coming out.
Murray remembers arguing with his father about racism back in the 1950s. All of these decades later, an image of barriers broken. Does this time that we're in right now feel any different than what you saw when you were younger?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this you never would have seen when I was younger. Never.
The governor of Texas vowing to work for change with the Floyd family.
This is the most horrific tragedy I've ever personally observed. But George Floyd is going to change the arc of the future of the United States. George Floyd has not died in vain.
Vice President Joe Biden today meeting privately for more than an hour with Floyd's family, seen here with his daughter Gianna. A family attorney tweeting he listened, heard their pain, and shared in their woe. That compassion meant the world to this grieving family. George Floyd's family grateful for the outpouring of support tonight and proud of the man he was.
We all hurting as a family, and the George we know, he's a family man, great man. He stands for the definition of a man because we didn't have no father figure growing up.
In his old neighborhood, a lasting image by the strokes of an artist's brush, symbolizing Floyd's impact on the world, and one of Houston's sons who's finally home.
David, today we saw relatives of Eric Garner, Ahmaud Arbery, and Michael Brown, among others, a real show of solidarity as Floyd's family gets ready for another emotional day. Tomorrow, they will have a private funeral, and Floyd will be buried next to his mother. David.
Marcus Moore with us here in Houston tonight. Marcus, thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for watching this morning edition. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you back here later on today for another broadcast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.